She was wearing a blue cardigan when her entire world collapsed. It was a gift from her daughter. The coffee in her hand was too hot. She'd burned her tongue just seconds before. She was laughing at something her husband had said about the neighbor's fence. Something completely forgettable. Something that didn't matter. And then her phone rang. The number was local but unfamiliar. She almost didn't answer. But something made her pick up. On the other end of the line was a woman who identified herself as Detective Martinez from the Fraud Division. Her voice was calm, professional. The kind of calm that makes your stomach drop because you know something terrible is coming. She asked if Jennifer Chen was sitting down. Jennifer wasn't, but she said yes anyway. Because that's what you do when someone asks you that question. You brace yourself. You prepare for impact. But nothing could have prepared Jennifer for what Detective Martinez said next. The detective told her they'd been investigating a case of identity theft, a sophisticated one that had been going on for over a decade. And the perpetrator, she said, was someone very close to Jennifer. Someone who had access to everything: her social security number, her mother's maiden name, her banking information, her entire life. Jennifer's hands started shaking. The coffee cup felt too hot suddenly, too heavy. She set it down on the counter and looked out her kitchen window. That's when she saw it. Sarah Henderson's car in the driveway next door. Sarah, her best friend of 15 years. The woman who knew her children's middle names, who had held her hand through her father's funeral, who texted her every single morning with a coffee cup emoji. The same woman who was, at that very moment, watering her roses in her front yard, looking so normal, so innocent, so completely and utterly like the friend Jennifer had trusted with everything. Detective Martinez kept talking. Her words started to blur together. Credit cards, bank accounts, fake identification documents, lease agreements, mortgages, $847,000. That number hung in the air like smoke. Jennifer's mouth went dry. She couldn't speak, couldn't think. The detective's voice cut through the fog. "Mrs. Chen, are you still there?" Jennifer was there. Physically, she was standing in her kitchen, holding a phone, staring out the window at her best friend, Sarah. But the person she thought she was, the person who believed she knew the people closest to her, the person who trusted without question, that person was already gone. This is the story of how Jennifer Chen lost her best friend, twice, once to betrayal, and once to the truth. Before we go any further, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. September 1995. The Embassy Suites on Market Street in downtown San Francisco. One of those corporate networking events that no one really wants to attend. Cheap wine in plastic cups. Name tags that never stick properly. Fluorescent lighting that makes everyone look exhausted. Jennifer Chen was 32 years old, 6 months divorced, wearing a blazer she'd bought on sale at Ross. She was pretending to have her life together. But she didn't. Not even close. Her ex-husband had left her for his dental hygienist, a cliché so painful it almost felt like a joke. Her 7-year-old daughter Emily was acting out at school, throwing tantrums, refusing to do homework. Jennifer was working as a temp at an insurance company, living in a cramped 1-bedroom apartment in Daly City, eating ramen noodles 3 nights a week because that's all she could afford after rent and childcare. She didn't want to be at this networking mixer, but her supervisor had suggested it might be good for her career. So there she was, standing awkwardly by the refreshment table, wondering how soon she could leave without it looking bad. That's when she noticed the woman by the cheese platter. She was alone, mid-30s maybe, brown hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She was crying. Not the loud, dramatic kind of crying, the quiet kind. The kind where you're trying so hard not to cry that it almost makes it worse. Where you're dabbing at your eyes with a cocktail napkin and praying no one notices. Jennifer noticed. She didn't know why she walked over. Maybe it was loneliness. Maybe it was recognition. Two women drowning in their own separate disasters, finding each other in a room full of people pretending everything was fine. Jennifer said something stupid to break the ice. Something like, "The brie isn't that bad." The woman looked up. Her eyes were red. Her mascara was slightly smudged. And then she laughed. This surprised, slightly broken laugh that came out of nowhere. Her name was Sarah Henderson. She told Jennifer that her husband had served her with divorce papers that morning. Just walked into the kitchen while she was making breakfast for their daughter and handed her an envelope. He was taking the house. He was taking everything. Sarah had nowhere to go. No plan. No safety net. Jennifer said she knew a good lawyer. That was a lie. Her lawyer had been terrible. But it made Sarah smile. And in that moment, standing by a sad cheese table in a fluorescent-lit conference room, something connected between them. They stayed at that mixer for 4 hours. Long after everyone else had left. Long after the hotel staff had started packing up the leftover wine and sad appetizers. They talked about everything. Their terrible marriages. The guilt they carried about their daughters. The way they'd both imagined their lives would look so different by now. Sarah told Jennifer she'd been an art history major in college, that she'd dreamed of working at a museum, curating exhibitions, writing about Renaissance paintings, but she'd gotten pregnant at 23, married at 24, given it all up to be a wife and mother. Now, at 33, she was starting over with nothing. Jennifer told Sarah she'd wanted to be a writer, that she had notebooks full of half-finished stories she was too afraid to show anyone. Stories about women like them, women who'd lost themselves somewhere along the way and were desperately trying to find their way back. They exchanged phone numbers before they left, made plans to meet for coffee the following week. Jennifer walked to her car that night thinking maybe, just maybe, things were finally starting to turn around. She had no idea she'd just met the person who would destroy her life. The friendship developed quickly. Within weeks, Sarah and Jennifer were inseparable. Coffee dates twice a week. Long phone calls late at night when their daughters were asleep, and they couldn't stop their minds from racing. They helped each other move into new apartments. Cheaper apartments. The kind of places you rent when you're rebuilding from nothing. They shared babysitting duties. Split the cost of birthday parties at Chuck E. Cheese because neither of them could afford it alone. Their daughters became best friends. Emily and Sarah's daughter Madison were the same age, same grade, same school. They had playdates every weekend, sleepovers, joint soccer practices. The girls were like sisters, and Jennifer and Sarah became like sisters too. In 1997, when Jennifer's ex-husband stopped paying child support, Sarah lent her $1,200. She insisted Jennifer didn't need to pay it back. "That's what friends do," she said. "We take care of each other." In 1999, when Sarah's mother had a stroke, Jennifer sat with her in the hospital for 3 days straight. They slept in those terrible plastic chairs in the waiting room, ate vending machine snacks, held hands during the worst moments. When Sarah's mother died, Jennifer was the one who helped plan the funeral, who held Sarah while she sobbed, who told her it was going to be okay even when it didn't feel like it would be. By the year 2000, they were more than best friends. They were family, the kind of family you choose, the kind that shows up. That's the year everything changed. Jennifer had finally gotten a real job, not a temp position, a real job with benefits, marketing coordinator at a tech startup in Silicon Valley, decent salary, health insurance, a 401k, vacation days. For the first time in 5 years, Jennifer felt like she could breathe. Sarah was still freelancing, doing graphic design work from home. Some months were good, some months were terrible. The income was unpredictable. She didn't have health insurance, couldn't afford to go to the dentist. One afternoon, they were having coffee at their usual place, a little cafe on Valencia Street. Jennifer was talking about her new benefits package, how grateful she was to finally have stability. And then she had an idea. "Sarah," she said, "I can add you to my Costco membership. And I think I can get you on my insurance plan, too. As a domestic partner or something. Let me check with HR." Sarah looked at her with these wide, almost disbelieving eyes, like Jennifer had just offered her the world. "Would you really do that?" "Of course," Jennifer said. "Your family." To process the paperwork, Sarah needed Jennifer's information. Social security number, mother's maiden name, driver's license number, date of birth, all of it. Jennifer didn't hesitate. She wrote everything down on a napkin right there in the cafe, handed it over without a second thought. Why would she question it? You don't keep secrets from family. You don't protect yourself from the people you trust most. That napkin, that single piece of paper with Jennifer's entire identity written on it, was the beginning of the end. But Jennifer didn't know that yet. She just felt good. Felt like she was finally in a position to help her best friend the way Sarah had helped her. The years that followed felt like the best years of Jennifer's life. In 2001, she remarried. A kind man named Robert who worked in software engineering. He was stable, reliable, good to Emily. Sarah remarried too, just 6 months later. Her husband David worked in pharmaceutical sales. He traveled a lot for work, 3 weeks out of the month sometimes. But Sarah didn't seem to mind. She joked that she was basically still a single mom, that she preferred it that way. More independence, less compromise. In 2003, Emily and Madison started high school together. Jennifer and Sarah became those mothers, the ones who volunteered for everything. Room moms, bake sale coordinators, chaperones for field trips. They knew all the teachers, all the gossip, which kids were dating, which parents were getting divorced. They were the center of their little community. In 2005, they started a Thursday night book club. Just the two of them at first. Then a few other women from the neighborhood joined. They'd meet at someone's house, drink wine, talk about books they'd barely read, complain about their teenagers. It was the highlight of Jennifer's week. That one night where she could just be herself. Not a mother, not a wife. Just Jennifer. Sitting with her best friend Sarah and laughing about nothing and everything. Over those years, Jennifer watched Sarah's life improve. She started dressing nicer, designer jeans, expensive handbags. She traded in her old Honda for a sleek Lexus SUV. Started taking vacations to places Jennifer couldn't afford. Hawaii, Mexico, Florida. Whenever Jennifer asked about it, Sarah had an explanation. David got a big promotion. I landed a huge client. We're just being smart with our money. Jennifer was happy for her. Genuinely happy. After everything Sarah had been through, after the terrible divorce and losing her mother, she deserved good things. She deserved to thrive. But looking back now, Jennifer can see the cracks, the tiny fractures in Sarah's story that she chose to ignore. The way Sarah never wanted to take photos when they traveled together. She'd always laugh it off. "I'm so unphotogenic. I hate how I look in pictures." The way she always paid for everything in cash, even large purchases, even at restaurants where everyone else used credit cards. "I'm trying to stick to a budget," she'd explain. Dave Ramsey style, envelope system. The way she'd sometimes mention places she'd been, restaurants she'd tried, cities she'd visited, and then quickly change the subject when Jennifer asked for details. The time Jennifer saw her at the bank in the middle of a Tuesday afternoon. Sarah was at the counter talking to a manager. She looked different, more polished, more confident. She was laughing, gesturing animatedly, looking completely comfortable in a way Jennifer rarely saw her. When Jennifer called out her name, Sarah jumped. Actually jumped, like she'd been caught doing something wrong. She recovered quickly, smiled, waved, said she was just there to refinance something, some boring financial thing. But there was something in her expression, something fleeting, something that looked almost like fear. The pieces were all there, scattered across 15 years of friendship. But Jennifer didn't want to see them, because seeing them would mean questioning everything. Every coffee date, every late-night phone call, every moment of connection. And Jennifer couldn't do that. Wouldn't do that, because Sarah was her person, her safe place, the one constant in a life that had been full of chaos and disappointment. On Thursday, April 8, 2010, they had book club at Sarah's house. They were reading a thriller. One of those twisty novels where nothing is what it seems, where the protagonist slowly realizes the person they trust most is the one destroying them. Sarah brought homemade cookies, chocolate chip, Jennifer's favorite. She was in a good mood that night, laughing more than usual, relaxed. At one point they were discussing the book's antagonist, this woman who had fooled everyone for years, who had constructed an elaborate lie wrapped in just enough truth that no one questioned it. Sarah said something that stuck with Jennifer. She said, "You know what makes a perfect lie? When it's wrapped in so much truth that you can't tell where one ends and the other begins." Everyone laughed. Someone refilled the wine glasses. The conversation moved on, but Jennifer remembered that line. Remembered the way Sarah had said it, with this odd little smile, like she was talking about something she knew intimately. 3 days later, Jennifer's phone rang. It was a Monday morning, April 11th. She was in her kitchen, wearing that blue cardigan, drinking coffee that was too hot, laughing with her husband Robert about something that didn't matter. And then Detective Martinez introduced herself. And everything Jennifer thought she knew about her life, about her best friend Sarah, about herself, shattered in the space of a single phone call. The detective's words were careful, measured. She'd clearly done this before, told people that their lives had been quietly dismantled by someone they loved. She said there had been an investigation, a lengthy one, into a sophisticated identity theft operation. Someone had been using Jennifer's personal information to open accounts, to secure loans, to build an entire secondary financial life. And that someone, Detective Martinez explained, was very close to Jennifer, had access to everything, had been doing this for over a decade. Jennifer's first thought wasn't who. It was impossible. It was, "This has to be a mistake." She said those words out loud. There must be some mistake. "I monitor my credit. I've never seen anything unusual." The detective's response was gentle but firm. That's because the perpetrator has been very sophisticated, Mrs. Chen. They've been intercepting your mail, rerouting statements. They've created a parallel system where you'd never see the activity. Jennifer set down her coffee cup. Her hands were shaking. The detective asked if she knew someone named Sarah Henderson, and the world tilted. Jennifer actually felt dizzy, like the ground beneath her feet had become liquid. "Sarah?" she said. "My Sarah, no. That's my best friend. There must be some mistake." The silence on the other end of the line told her everything. There was no mistake. Detective Martinez asked Jennifer to come to the police station. Said there were things she needed to see. Documents, evidence, security footage. Jennifer hung up the phone, stood in her kitchen, looked out the window. Sarah was in her front yard, watering her roses, wearing yoga pants and a t-shirt, looking so completely normal, so perfectly, utterly ordinary, like the friend Jennifer had known for 15 years. Not like a criminal, not like someone who had been systematically destroying Jennifer's financial life while smiling to her face every single day. Jennifer's husband, Robert, asked what was wrong. She couldn't answer, couldn't find the words. How do you explain that your entire reality just shifted? That the person you trusted most in the world might be the person who's been betraying you all along? The police station smelled like burned coffee and industrial floor cleaner. Detective Martinez met Jennifer in the lobby, led her down a hallway to a small room. No windows, just a table, a few chairs, a television mounted on the wall, and a cardboard box. An ordinary cardboard box, the kind you'd use for moving or storage. It was sitting on the table, unremarkable. But Jennifer couldn't stop staring at it, because somehow she knew. That box contained her life, or rather, it contained Sarah's version of Jennifer's life. Detective Martinez was kind, patient. She offered Jennifer coffee, water. Jennifer shook her head. She just wanted to understand, wanted to see whatever evidence had brought her here. The detective started with the security footage. She pulled up a video file on the laptop, black and white. Date stamped June 14th, 2002. A Bank of America branch in Sacramento. Jennifer watched the screen. A woman approached the teller counter, business casual clothing, hair pulled back, confident posture. She was smiling, chatting with the teller, looking completely at ease. It was Sarah. But when she signed the paperwork, she signed Jennifer's name. When she provided identification, she provided documents that said Jennifer Chen. Jennifer watched her best friend impersonate her, watched her walk out of that bank with a credit card in an envelope, a credit card in Jennifer's name, with Jennifer's credit, Jennifer's future. All of it handed over to Sarah with a smile. "That was the first one we found," Detective Martinez said. "But it's not the first one she opened. We've traced accounts back to 2000, the year you helped her with the insurance paperwork." Jennifer couldn't speak, couldn't process what she was seeing. The detective opened the cardboard box. Inside were files, dozens of them, organized with tabs, color-coded, meticulous, credit card statements from companies Jennifer had never heard of, loan applications with Jennifer's information and Sarah's handwriting, lease agreements, rental contracts, bank account documents, all of it bearing Jennifer's name, her social security number, her mother's maiden name, her date of birth, but Sarah's signature, Sarah's life, built on Jennifer's stolen identity. 23 credit cards, the detective said, 8 personal loans, 2 mortgages, 1 car lease, multiple bank accounts across 3 states. All opened over the course of 10 years, all carefully managed so you'd never see them. Jennifer picked up one of the credit card statements. The charges were mundane: Nordstrom, Whole Foods, gas stations, restaurants, normal purchases, the kind of things anyone would buy, except Sarah had bought them using Jennifer's credit, using Jennifer's future, using Jennifer's ability to help her own daughter Emily, to buy a house, to have a life. How much? Jennifer finally asked. Her voice sounded strange, distant, like it was coming from someone else. How much did she take? Detective Martinez consulted her notes. We're still calculating the total, but current estimates are approximately $847,000. Jennifer laughed. Actually laughed. A sharp, bitter sound that surprised even her. Because that number was absurd. Impossible. She didn't even make that much money. Not in 10 years. Not in 20. Where did it go? She asked. Where's the money now? That, the detective said, is what we're trying to piece together. Over the next several hours, Detective Martinez walked Jennifer through Sarah's double life. And that's exactly what it was. A complete, fully realized second existence, built entirely on Jennifer's stolen identity. There was an apartment in Roseville, a suburb about 2 hours northeast of San Francisco. Sarah had been renting it for 8 years. 2 bedrooms, upscale complex with a pool and gym. The lease was in Jennifer's name. The security deposit had come from a credit card in Jennifer's name. The monthly rent was charged to a bank account in Jennifer's name. But Sarah was the one living there, or staying there. The detective wasn't entirely sure how often Sarah used it. There were photos. The detective showed them to Jennifer. Interior shots that appeared to have been taken by the landlord for some reason. Expensive furniture, artwork on the walls, a well-stocked kitchen. This wasn't a secret meeting place or a storage unit. This was a home. Sarah's second home. There was more. A vacation condo in Destin, Florida, right on the beach. Sarah had purchased it in 2006, secured the mortgage using Jennifer's credit, made the down payment with money from 3 different credit cards. All in Jennifer's name. She'd been flying there twice a year, telling her husband David and daughter Madison she was visiting her sick aunt in Florida, her aunt who needed help, her aunt who was deteriorating, except there was no sick aunt. There was just Sarah. She was spending long weekends in a beachfront condo that Jennifer's credit had purchased, drinking wine on the balcony, walking on the beach, living a life she couldn't afford with her own money. So she'd stolen someone else's. There was a car, a Lexus SUV, not the one she drove around their neighborhood, a different one, nicer, newer, leased in Jennifer's name, parked at that apartment in Roseville. Sarah had 2 cars, one for her real life, one for her fake life, the life she lived as Jennifer Chen. There were store credit cards, Nordstrom, Saks Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus, all maxed out. Used to purchase clothing and jewelry and home goods, things Sarah wore, things she displayed in her house. The house Jennifer had been to hundreds of times, sitting on furniture that Jennifer's stolen credit had purchased, and drinking wine from glasses that Jennifer's stolen credit had paid for. Detective Martinez explained the scope of it. Sarah had been living 2 completely separate lives, her normal life with her husband David and her daughter Madison, the life where she was Sarah Henderson, freelance graphic designer, struggling to make ends meet. And then this other life, this shadow life, where she was wealthier, more successful, where she could afford things she'd always wanted but could never have. And she lived that shadow life as Jennifer Chen. She used Jennifer's credit to fund vacations and cars and apartments and shopping sprees. She used Jennifer's identity to become the version of herself she wished she could be. The detective asked if Sarah's husband knew. Jennifer shook her head. She didn't think so. Sarah had always told David she had family money, an inheritance from her mother. She didn't like to talk about it, she'd say. It was too painful, too personal. But of course, there was no inheritance. Sarah's mother had died with medical debt, had left Sarah with nothing but grief. The money Sarah had been spending, the money she'd been using to finance her upgraded life, wasn't from any inheritance. It was from Jennifer, from Jennifer's future, from Jennifer's daughter Emily's college fund, from Jennifer's ability to buy a house or retire or have any kind of financial security. Sarah had stolen all of it, and she'd done it while maintaining their friendship, while having coffee dates and book clubs and heart-to-heart conversations, while being Jennifer's person, her safe place, her family. Jennifer left the police station 7 hours after she'd arrived. It was dark outside. She sat in her car in the parking lot and tried to process what she'd learned, tried to fit this new information into the framework of her life. But it wouldn't fit. It shattered the framework entirely. Detective Martinez had asked if Jennifer wanted to press charges. Jennifer had said yes, then no, then yes again. How do you send your best friend to prison? How do you not? Both questions felt impossible to answer. Jennifer drove home in a daze. Her phone kept buzzing. Text messages from Sarah. Hey, where are you? Book club tonight, remember? Then another one. Hello? You okay? Then one more. Getting worried. Call me. And attached to that last message was an emoji. A coffee cup. The same emoji Sarah sent every morning. Their little inside joke. Their ritual. Jennifer wanted to throw her phone out the window. Wanted to scream. Wanted to drive to Sarah's house and demand answers. But she couldn't move. Couldn't think. Couldn't reconcile the Sarah who sent coffee cup emojis with the Sarah who had stolen $847,000. When Jennifer finally got home, her husband Robert was waiting. He'd been reading through the documents the detective had given her. Photocopies of credit card statements, loan applications, all bearing Jennifer's name, all in Sarah's handwriting. Robert's face was pale. Jen, he said quietly, your credit score is 423. Jennifer nodded. She couldn't speak. We're not going to get the loan for Emily's college. Emily, their daughter, who had just been accepted to UC Davis, who had been so excited, who had been planning her dorm room and picking out classes and imagining her future. All of that was gone now, because Sarah had needed a hot tub for her secret apartment in Roseville, because Sarah had wanted a vacation condo in Florida, because Sarah had decided that Jennifer's future was worth less than Sarah's present. Jennifer started laughing, that same sharp, broken laugh from the police station, and then the laugh turned into crying, huge, gasping sobs that felt like they were tearing her apart from the inside. Robert held her, didn't say anything. What was there to say? Over the next 2 weeks, the investigation expanded. Police searched Sarah's house, her real house, the one she shared with her husband and daughter. They found a storage unit rented under a fake name. Then they found a second storage unit. Inside were filing cabinets, organized meticulously. Files for each account Sarah had opened, spreadsheets tracking balances and payments and credit limits, fake identification cards with Jennifer's information and Sarah's photo, practice pages where Sarah had been learning to replicate Jennifer's signature, pages and pages of Jennifer's name written over and over in Sarah's handwriting until it looked natural, until it looked real. Detective Martinez called Jennifer back to the station. "There's something else," she said. "Something we didn't understand at first." She showed Jennifer more documents, financial records, but these were different. These were Sarah's real financial records, her actual income and expenses. And there were spreadsheets. Detailed spreadsheets going back to 1995, the year they met. These spreadsheets tracked Jennifer, not Sarah, Jennifer, her address, her employer, her salary, her credit score, all of it documented meticulously. Months before Sarah had ever opened a single fraudulent account, she'd been watching Jennifer, studying her, building a profile. The detective pulled out another document, a receipt, from a private investigator, dated August 1995, 1 month before that networking mixer where they'd met. Sarah had hired someone to find Jennifer Chen, to learn everything about her, where she lived, where she worked, whether she was married, whether she had money, whether she had good credit. The networking event, Jennifer said slowly. She wasn't there by accident. No, Detective Martinez said. She wasn't. Sarah had engineered their entire friendship, had stood by that cheese table crying, waiting for someone to approach her, someone kind, someone lonely, someone who would trust easily because they desperately needed a friend. She'd been hunting, and she'd found Jennifer. Every coffee date, every late-night phone call, every birthday party and school function and hospital vigil. All of it had been calculated, part of a long-term plan to gain Jennifer's trust, to become indispensable, to get close enough to take everything. Jennifer sat in that police station conference room and tried to figure out which parts of their friendship had been real. Had Sarah ever actually cared about her? Even a little? Or had Jennifer been nothing more than a 15-year con, a mark, a target, a means to an end? She still doesn't know the answer to that question. Maybe she never will. Detective Martinez wanted Jennifer to confront Sarah, to wear a wire, to get her talking. "We need her to confirm the relationship," the detective explained. "We need her to admit what she did." So on Thursday night, April 22nd, Jennifer went to book club. Same as always, same time, same place. Except this time she had a recording device taped to her ribs, and 2 police officers waiting in an unmarked car 3 houses down. "Act normal," Detective Martinez had said. "Just get her talking. Act normal." Jennifer didn't even know what normal meant anymore. She parked in front of Sarah's house at 7 p.m., sat in her car for 5 minutes, staring at the front door, the door she'd walked through hundreds of times, carrying wine, carrying books, carrying her sleeping daughter Emily when they'd stayed too late. She thought about leaving, just driving away, never coming back, never knowing the truth. But then she thought about Emily, about her destroyed credit, about that apartment in Roseville, that condo in Florida, about $847,000. She rang the doorbell. Sarah answered with that smile, the same smile Jennifer had loved for 15 years. "There you are," Sarah said. "I was starting to worry. Wine's already poured." They sat in Sarah's living room, the living room Jennifer knew so well, the couch where they'd watched movies, the coffee table where they'd played cards, the bookshelf filled with books they'd read together. Everything looked the same, but nothing was the same. Jennifer waited until they were both sitting down, wine glasses in hand, just like always. "Sarah," she said, "I need to ask you something." "Of course," Sarah said. "What's up? Do you remember when I helped you with the insurance paperwork? Back in 2000, when you needed my social security number? The smallest flicker crossed Sarah's face, barely noticeable, there and gone in less than a second. Yeah, Sarah said. Of course, why? I got a call from my bank about some accounts I didn't recognize. Credit cards, loans, things I didn't open. Sarah's hand tightened around her wine glass. Just slightly, just enough for Jennifer to notice. What kind of accounts? Sarah asked. Her voice was carefully neutral. Credit cards, Jennifer repeated. Loans, in my name. But I didn't open them. The silence that followed felt like it lasted forever. The clock on Sarah's mantel ticked. Her dog sighed from somewhere in the other room. Normal sounds. Mundane sounds. But there was nothing normal about this moment. Sarah? Jennifer said. Did you open accounts in my name? Sarah stood up, started clearing dishes off the coffee table. Dishes that weren't even dirty. Busy hands. Avoiding eye contact. Jen, listen. It's complicated. Did you? Sarah stopped, put down the wine glasses she'd been holding, turned to face Jennifer, and her face changed. The mask slipped. The friendly, warm, familiar expression Jennifer had known for 15 years disappeared. What was left was something harder, something colder, something Jennifer had never seen before. Yes, Sarah said. I did. But you don't understand. I don't understand? Jennifer's voice was rising. She couldn't help it. Sarah, the police told me it's almost $1 million. They're exaggerating. Are they? Sarah sat back down, but not next to Jennifer, across from her. Like they were strangers, like they'd never been friends at all. It started small, Sarah said. Her voice was different now. Flat, emotionless, like she was reading from a script. Just one credit card. Back in 2000, when David lost his job. We were going to lose the apartment. I was going to pay it back. I swear. But you didn't. I couldn't. And then things kept happening. The car broke down. My mother got sick. We needed more. So you kept taking. I kept surviving. Jennifer stared at her. This woman she'd known for 15 years. This complete stranger. The apartment in Roseville, Jennifer said. The condo in Florida, the Lexus, the jewelry. That's surviving? Something shifted in Sarah's expression. Not guilt, something harder. Almost angry. You have no idea what it's like, Sarah said. Watching you get everything handed to you. The job with benefits. The stable marriage. Your daughter Emily getting into any college she wants. You destroyed her college fund, Jennifer said. Her voice was shaking. You destroyed my credit. Emily can't go to Davis because of you. Because of me? Sarah actually laughed. No, Jen. Because your father set up a trust fund for you. Because you had family money to fall back on when your marriage ended. Because you've always had a safety net. What are you talking about? I had nothing, Sarah said. I had no one. Until I had you. The way she said it. Like Jennifer was a resource. A thing to be used. Not a person. Not a friend. That's when the police came in, 2 officers, moving quickly, professional. Sarah didn't resist. She stood up, held out her wrists for the handcuffs. Like she'd been expecting this. Like she'd rehearsed it. Before they led her out, she looked at Jennifer one last time. I'm sorry you got hurt, she said. That part wasn't supposed to happen. Not I'm sorry I hurt you. Not I'm sorry for what I did. I'm sorry you got hurt. Like it was an accident. Like Jennifer had tripped and fallen instead of being pushed off a cliff. The word spread through their neighborhood within hours. Sarah Henderson arrested for identity theft. The woman next door. The room mom. The book club organizer. The one who always brought homemade cookies. Jennifer's best friend. People didn't know how to react. Some neighbors avoided Jennifer. Crossed the street when they saw her coming. Like betrayal was contagious. Like if they got too close, their best friends might steal from them too. Others were overly sympathetic, brought casseroles, offered to help, asked intrusive questions disguised as concern. How did you not know? Were there signs? Did you suspect anything? Jennifer stopped answering her door, stopped going to the grocery store, stopped living her normal life because nothing about her life was normal anymore. The book club disbanded immediately. The other women didn't know what to say, didn't know whose side to take. Some of them had known Sarah for years, had trusted her, had shared secrets with her. Now they were questioning everything. Had Sarah stolen from them too? Had she been collecting their information? Planning her next target? The investigation continued even after Sarah's arrest. Police found more evidence, more accounts, more lies. They discovered Sarah had been using multiple identities, not just Jennifer's. She'd created fake personas using combinations of real and fabricated information. She had email accounts Jennifer had never heard of, phone numbers registered to addresses that didn't exist, an entire digital infrastructure built to support her double life. And through it all, she'd maintained the friendship. Had shown up for Jennifer. Had been there for Emily's graduation, for Jennifer's father's funeral, for every milestone and crisis and ordinary moment. She'd been present, engaged, caring, real, or at least she'd seemed real. Jennifer couldn't reconcile it, couldn't understand how someone could compartmentalize so completely, how Sarah could steal Jennifer's identity in the morning and meet her for coffee in the afternoon, how she could open a credit card in Jennifer's name and then help Jennifer pick out a birthday present for Emily, how she could be both friend and criminal, both family and fraud. It didn't make sense. None of it made sense. 2 days before Sarah's trial was set to begin, Detective Martinez called Jennifer. "We found something," she said. "You need to come see this." Jennifer didn't want to go. She'd already seen enough, already learned more than she could handle, already had her entire worldview shattered beyond repair. But she went anyway, because some part of her still needed to understand, still needed to know why. The detective led her to the same conference room. On the table were 5 notebooks, cheap composition books, the kind kids use in school, spiral-bound, different colors. They looked innocent, harmless. But Detective Martinez's expression told Jennifer they were anything but. "Sarah's journals," the detective said. "We found them hidden in the second storage unit, behind boxes of old clothes and fake documents. She'd been keeping them for years." The detective had marked certain pages with yellow, sticky tabs. "Start with this one," she said. Jennifer opened the first journal to a page dated July 1995, 2 months before that networking mixer. The handwriting was unmistakably Sarah's, neat, precise. The handwriting Jennifer had seen on birthday cards and shopping lists and notes left on her windshield. His name was Robert Chen, the entry began. "My father. Our father. He died last month, 57 years old, heart attack. I read about it in the obituary section of the San Francisco Chronicle." Jennifer's hands started shaking. She kept reading. "He left everything to his daughter. Jennifer, his legitimate daughter, the one he raised, the one who got his name, his love, his money." Me? I got nothing. Not even a mention in his obituary. Jennifer looked up at Detective Martinez. What is this? Keep reading, the detective said gently. My mother was his mistress for 12 years. I was the secret he kept. The embarrassment he couldn't acknowledge. He paid for my mother's apartment, but he never paid child support. He never came to my school plays. He never acknowledged my existence. And when he died, he left me nothing. Jennifer felt the room spinning. Her father, Robert Chen, the man who had raised her, who had put her through college, who had left her a trust fund when he died. He'd had another daughter, Sarah. Sarah was her half-sister. The detective confirmed it before Jennifer could ask. We ran DNA tests, Martinez said, using samples from Sarah's hairbrush and comparing them to your DNA from the system. Your half-sisters. Jennifer sat down heavily, kept reading. The journal continued. Jennifer doesn't even know I exist. She has no idea she has a half-sister. A sister who spent her childhood watching from across town while Jennifer got everything. The birthday parties I could see from the street. The piano lessons I heard through the window. The college tuition. The trust fund. The inheritance. All of it should have been half mine. But he wrote me out completely. Like I never existed. Like my mother and I were nothing. Jennifer turned to another marked page. This one dated September 1995. I found her. Jennifer Chen, my half-sister. She's going through a divorce, living in a cheap apartment in Daly City, working a temp job. She has a daughter the same age as Madison. She's struggling, alone, perfect. The next marked page was dated a week later. I hired an investigator, got all her information, social security number, credit history, employment records. Her credit is good. She pays her bills on time. She's exactly what I need. Then the entry from the night they met. I met Jennifer tonight, at a networking event. I cried by the cheese table and she came over. Just like I thought she would. She's kind. Too kind. She gave me the name of a lawyer, offered to help. This is going to be easier than I thought. Jennifer felt sick. Every moment of their friendship had been engineered, calculated. Sarah had researched her, hunted her, manipulated her from the very first conversation. The tears by the cheese table hadn't been genuine grief. They'd been bait, and Jennifer had taken it. But then Jennifer turned to a page marked 3 years later, to December 1998. The entry was different, shorter, more personal. Something unexpected is happening. I actually like her. Not Jennifer the Mark. Jennifer, my friend. This wasn't supposed to happen. And another entry from 2001. Jennifer held my hand today at the hospital while my mother was dying. She didn't have to be there. We're not really friends. Or we weren't supposed to be. But she was there. And it felt real. It felt like she actually cared about me. Not about what our father did. Not about the inheritance I should have gotten. Just about me. Jennifer kept reading. Years later, an entry from 2007. I hate that I love her. I hate that this is real now. I started this to get what was mine, what our father should have given me. But somewhere along the way, Jennifer became my best friend. Actually, my best friend. And I'm still stealing from her, still ruining her credit, still lying to her face. And I can't stop. Because if I stop, if I come clean, I lose everything. The apartment, the condo, the life I've built, and I lose her. The only person who's ever really cared about me. The impossible truth was there in Sarah's own handwriting. she had meant to use Jennifer, had engineered their friendship as part of a calculated plan to steal what she believed was rightfully hers. Half of their father's estate, half of the inheritance, half of the life Jennifer had lived while Sarah watched from the outside. But somewhere along the way, the con had become real. The fake friendship had turned into a real one. Sarah had actually fallen in love with Jennifer, not romantically, but the deep, complicated love between women who understand each other, who see each other, who become family. And yet she'd kept stealing, kept betraying, kept destroying Jennifer's financial future even as she treasured their emotional connection. Both things were true simultaneously. The love was real. The betrayal was real. Sarah had held both truths in her hands for 15 years and never let either one go. So what do I do with that? Jennifer asked Detective Martinez. How do I process this? The detective didn't have an answer. Nobody did. How do you reconcile the fact that your best friend loved you and destroyed you at the same time? That every moment of connection was genuine and calculated? That the friendship was real and the friendship was a lie? Jennifer left the police station with photocopies of the journal entries. She read them over and over at home, trying to find some clarity, some way to understand. But understanding never came. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Sarah pleaded guilty to multiple counts of identity theft, fraud, and forgery. Her lawyer argued for leniency, cited her traumatic childhood, her mental health struggles, the complicated family dynamics that had led her down this path. He read excerpts from the journals, showed how Sarah had genuinely cared for Jennifer, even as she stole from her. How she'd been torn between love and resentment, between friendship and revenge. How she'd been trying to claim what she believed was rightfully hers. An inheritance her father had denied her. A life she'd been excluded from. The prosecution argued she'd been calculating, methodical, had kept detailed records of her crimes, had planned everything carefully over the course of 15 years. Had manipulated Jennifer from their very first meeting, had engineered a friendship for the explicit purpose of theft, that the journals showed premeditation, showed consciousness of guilt, showed that Sarah knew exactly what she was doing and chose to do it anyway. The judge seemed unmoved by both arguments. In the end, Sarah was sentenced to 7 years in federal prison. Full restitution was ordered. $847,000 plus interest. Her lawyer told the court that Sarah would never be able to pay that amount, that she'd be paying it off for the rest of her life. The judge said that was Sarah's problem. She should have thought about that before stealing nearly $1 million from her half-sister, her best friend, the person who had trusted her most. Jennifer was there for the sentencing, sat in the back of the courtroom. Sarah never looked at her, not once. Just stared straight ahead as the judge read the sentence. Her face was blank, emotionless, like she'd already left, already disconnected from this reality. Then she was led away in handcuffs, orange jumpsuit, wrists bound, and that was it. 15 years of friendship, 15 years of betrayal, over in less than an hour. The courtroom emptied. People filed out, whispered to each other. Jennifer sat alone in the back row, thinking about those journals, about Sarah's words. I hate that I love her. Both things were true, and maybe that was the only answer Jennifer would ever get. 6 months later, Jennifer did something she still can't fully explain. She went to visit Sarah in prison. She doesn't know why she went. Maybe she needed closure. Maybe she needed to understand. Maybe she just needed to see Sarah one more time. To confirm that this was all real. that it had actually happened, that her best friend of 15 years had actually been her half-sister, had actually stolen from her, had actually loved her. All of it, simultaneously. They sat across from each other in the visiting room, a table between them, guards watching from the corners. Sarah looked different, thinner, older. Her hair was going gray. She wasn't wearing makeup. She looked tired. Tired in a way that went beyond physical exhaustion. Tired in her bones, in her soul. "Why didn't you just tell me," Jennifer asked, "about being my sister?" Sarah looked at her for a long moment. Would you have shared Dad's inheritance? The question hung in the air. Jennifer wanted to say yes, wanted to believe she would have, that she would have recognized the injustice, would have split everything equally, would have welcomed Sarah into her life as family. But she hesitated, and Sarah saw that hesitation. "Exactly," Sarah said. "You wouldn't have. Or maybe you would have eventually. But not right away. Not when I needed it. Not when my mother was dying and I couldn't afford her medical bills. Not when I was living in that terrible apartment and eating cereal for dinner. You would have thought about it, considered it, maybe given me something small to ease your conscience. But half? The full half that should have been mine? No." "But Sarah," Jennifer said, "I would have helped you. If you'd just told me you were struggling. If you'd just asked." "You did help me," Sarah said. "For 15 years you helped me survive. You helped me build a life I couldn't have had otherwise. You helped me give Madison things I never could have afforded. You helped me feel like I wasn't the secret anymore, like I mattered. I helped you commit fraud. You helped me take what should have been mine from the beginning." They sat in silence. The clock on the wall ticked. A guard shifted his weight. Someone laughed in another part of the prison. Normal sounds. Prison sounds. This was Sarah's life now. And in some ways, it was Jennifer's life too. Forever linked by blood and betrayal. Forever connected by a father who had created this mess by keeping secrets. By choosing one daughter over the other. By leaving everything to Jennifer and nothing to Sarah. "Did you ever really care about me?" Jennifer finally asked. "Any of it? Or was I always just this? A target? A mark? A way to get what you thought you deserved?" Sarah looked at her for a long time. Her eyes were different now. Older, sadder, more honest, maybe. "That's the thing, Jen," she finally said. "It was all real. Everything we did, everything we shared. That was real. I loved you. I still love you. I loved you as my friend. And I hated you as my sister. The sister who got everything I didn't. Who had our father's name and his love and his money. Who got to grow up knowing she belonged while I grew up knowing I was a secret. Both things were true. And I carried both of them every single day for 15 years. Just not enough to stop," Jennifer said. "No," Sarah said quietly. "Not enough to stop. Because the money, the apartments, the car, the life I built with your credit, that was my inheritance. That was what he should have given me. I was just taking what was mine." By destroying what was mine, Jennifer said, by ruining Emily's future, by stealing my ability to have a life, by making me question everything I thought I knew about friendship and trust and family. Was it worth it? Sarah didn't answer. Just looked down at her hands, at the table, at anything but Jennifer. Jennifer left the prison and drove home. She hasn't been back, doesn't plan to go back. What would be the point? 3 years have passed since Sarah went to prison. Jennifer's life has slowly begun to rebuild. Her credit score is climbing. Slowly, painfully slowly, but climbing. She's up to 560 now, Still not good, still not where it should be, but better. Emily ended up going to a state school, got scholarships, got loans, she's thriving. Maybe even happier than she would have been at Davis. Jennifer tells herself that anyway. On the days when the guilt creeps in, when she wonders if she should have handled things differently, should have tried to understand before calling the police, should have given Sarah a chance to explain. Her marriage survived. Barely. There were months when it felt like it wouldn't, when the stress and the betrayal and the sheer impossibility of what had happened threatened to pull them apart. Robert was patient, understanding. But there were moments when Jennifer saw him looking at her differently, wondering if she'd been willfully blind, if she'd ignored signs because she wanted to, if some part of her had known and chosen not to see. Those looks hurt more than the betrayal sometimes. Jennifer doesn't trust easily anymore. Probably never will again. She's careful now about who she lets in, who she shares information with, who she calls friend. She checks her credit report obsessively, every week, sometimes more, looking for signs, waiting for the other shoe to drop, wondering if someone else is out there right now, building a file on her, planning their approach, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Her therapist says that's normal, says it will fade with time, says trauma changes you, but it doesn't have to define you. Jennifer isn't so sure. Some wounds don't heal. They just become part of who you are, part of your new normal. She looks at photos from those 15 years now. Birthday parties, vacations, school events, book club nights, coffee dates, all those moments captured in pixels and print. And she can't tell anymore what was real and what was performance. There's a photo from Emily's 8th grade graduation. Jennifer and Sarah standing together, arms around each other, both smiling, both crying a little because their babies were growing up. Was that real? Or was Sarah thinking about the credit card she'd opened that morning? The one in Jennifer's name with a $15,000 limit? Was she calculating how she'd use it? What she'd buy? How long she could keep the secret? Jennifer will never know, and that uncertainty is almost worse than the betrayal itself, not knowing which moments were genuine, which smiles were real, which tears were authentic. Sarah is scheduled for release in 4 years, 2028. Jennifer doesn't know what she'll do when that happens. Doesn't know if Sarah will try to contact her. Doesn't know what she'll say if she does. Part of her wants to see Sarah again. Wants to ask more questions. Wants to try to understand. Another part of her never wants to hear Sarah's name again. Never wants to think about those 15 years. Never wants to reconcile the impossible contradiction of loving someone who destroyed you. But she knows one thing. People are capable of holding contradictions, of being two opposing things at once. Love and hate, truth and lies, friendship and betrayal, sister and stranger. Sarah was Jennifer's best friend. Sarah was Jennifer's half-sister. Sarah loved Jennifer. Sarah destroyed Jennifer. All of these statements are true. All of them will always be true. And Jennifer has to live with all of them. She's learned that trust isn't a light switch. It's not something you turn on or off. It's more like a door. Once it's been shattered, you can rebuild it. You can make it functional again. You can learn to open it for people. But you'll always see the cracks. You'll always know it broke once. You'll always remember how it felt when it shattered. And you'll always wonder if it could break again. The question that haunts Jennifer isn't whether Sarah loved her. The journals proved that Sarah did. Genuinely loved her. The question is whether love means anything when it exists alongside betrayal. When someone can hold your hand and steal from you simultaneously. When someone can be your safest place and your greatest threat. When sisterhood and fraud occupy the same space. When friendship becomes a weapon. Jennifer doesn't have an answer to that question. Maybe there isn't one. Maybe some questions aren't meant to be answered. Just lived with. Just carried. Just integrated into who you become after something like this happens. She thinks about Sarah's words from book club, about perfect lies, how they're wrapped in so much truth you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. Sarah's entire life had been that kind of lie, built on truth, constructed from real emotion and real connection and real love. But underneath it all, feeding it, sustaining it, was theft, was resentment, was a cold calculation that had started before they'd even met. And somehow, impossibly, both things had been genuine. The calculation and the care, the planning and the love, the con and the friendship, the revenge and the connection, all of it real, all of it true, all of it existing in the same person, in the same relationship. For 15 years. How well do you really know the people closest to you? That's the question Jennifer asks herself now. Not who they say they are, not who they present themselves to be, but who they actually are when you're not looking, when they're alone with their choices, when they have to decide between what they want and what's right, when they're faced with a secret that could change everything. Sarah fooled Jennifer for 15 years. 15 years of daily interaction, of intimate knowledge, of shared secrets and shared lives. And Jennifer never suspected, never questioned, never saw the truth that was hiding in plain sight. Her father had another daughter. Her best friend was her half-sister. Her most trusted person was systematically destroying her financial future. Could someone be fooling you right now? Are you sure? Really sure? Jennifer wasn't, and she'd known Sarah for 15 years, had talked to her almost every day, had trusted her with everything, had loved her like family, and she'd been completely, utterly wrong about everything. So maybe we don't know people as well as we think we do. Maybe we can't. Maybe everyone carries secrets, carries contradictions, carries versions of themselves they only show when they're alone. Maybe the person you trust most has reasons to resent you that you don't even know about. Maybe your friendship started for reasons that have nothing to do with friendship. Maybe the person who seems to love you most is the person who's been hurting you all along. Jennifer knows now that trust is always a gamble, always a risk. Always a choice to believe something you can never really prove. And sometimes, like in her case, that gamble costs you everything. She still doesn't know if she made the right choice pressing charges. Some days she thinks she did. That Sarah needed to face consequences, that justice required it, that $847,000 can't just be forgiven because the person who stole it happens to be your half-sister. Other days, she wonders if she destroyed whatever was real between them by sending Sarah to prison. If she should have handled it differently. Should have confronted Sarah privately first. Should have tried to understand the full story before involving the police. Should have acknowledged that their father's choices had created this situation. That Sarah's childhood had been marked by rejection and secrecy, while Jennifer's had been marked by love and acceptance. That there was a fundamental injustice at the heart of all of this, that had nothing to do with credit cards and everything to do with a man who'd refused to acknowledge one of his daughters. But then she remembers Emily. Remembers her daughter's face when they had to tell her she couldn't go to Davis. Remembers the years it's taken to rebuild her credit. Remembers that apartment in Roseville, that condo in Florida, that Lexus SUV, remembers $847,000. And she knows she did the only thing she could have done. The only thing any of us could do when faced with that kind of systematic betrayal. She protected herself. She sought justice. She said no, even to someone she loved, even to her best friend, even to her half-sister, even to someone whose pain she could understand. That takes courage. More courage than Jennifer knew she had. More courage than she thought she'd ever need. But she found it. In that police station, in that courtroom, in the moment she chose herself over a relationship that had been built on lies and love simultaneously. Jennifer is not the same person she was before that phone call. The woman in the blue cardigan who was laughing about a fence, that woman is gone. What's left is someone harder, more careful, more aware that the people we love are capable of hurting us in ways we never imagined, but also someone stronger, someone who survived, someone who rebuilt, someone who knows now that she can face the worst things she could imagine and still keep going, still wake up, still laugh, still love. Even if that love is more cautious now, more guarded, more aware. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Sarah taught Jennifer that. Not intentionally, not kindly, but she taught her. Taught her that trust is precious because it's fragile. That friendship is sacred because it can be violated. That family is complicated because it carries history you might not even know about. That love is powerful because it can coexist with betrayal, and both things can be completely real. And that sometimes the people who hurt us most are the ones who love us too. Jennifer knows now what she didn't know before. That people are complicated, that they can hold contradictions, that they can love you and hurt you and both things can be completely true. That someone can be your best friend and your worst enemy. That someone can genuinely care about you while systematically destroying your future. That biology doesn't determine family, and friendship doesn't guarantee loyalty. And she knows that if it could happen to her, if someone as careful and smart and aware as she thought she was could be fooled for 15 years, then it could happen to anyone. To you, to the person watching this right now. So look around. Look at the people closest to you, your best friend, your sister, your partner, your neighbor, the person you trust with your secrets, the person who knows your social security number, the person who has access to your life. Do you really know them? Or do you know the version they've chosen to show you? The version they've carefully constructed? The version that serves their purposes? And if that version turned out to be a carefully constructed performance, if the friendship turned out to have started for reasons that had nothing to do with genuine connection, if the person you loved most turned out to be someone completely different, would you even recognize the signs? Would you see the cracks? Would you question the inconsistencies? Or would you, like Jennifer, explain them away? Make excuses? Choose to believe because believing is easier than doubting? Because trusting feels better than suspecting? Because love feels safer than vigilance? Jennifer didn't see the signs, not for 15 years, not until that phone call, not until Detective Martinez laid out the evidence, not until she watched security footage of Sarah pretending to be her. Sarah Henderson is currently serving her sentence at a federal correctional facility in Dublin, California. She'll be eligible for parole in 2027. She's been a model prisoner according to reports, participates in programs, works in the prison library, keeps to herself. Jennifer wonders sometimes what Sarah thinks about, if she regrets it, if she wishes she'd done things differently. if she understands the full scope of what she destroyed, or if she still believes she was justified, still believes she was just taking what their father should have given her, still believes that Jennifer deserved it somehow, for having everything Sarah didn't, for being the legitimate daughter, for getting to grow up with their father's love. Jennifer Chen still lives in the same house in San Francisco, still works at the same tech company, still checks her credit report every week. She joined a support group for victims of financial fraud. She found some comfort there, found other people who understood what it felt like to be betrayed by someone they trusted. Though none of their stories were quite like hers. None of them had been betrayed by their best friend, who turned out to be their secret half-sister. None of them had to reconcile that particular combination of love and resentment and family and fraud. She doesn't talk about Sarah much. Most people in her life now don't even know the full story. Don't know about the journals, about the half-sister revelation, about the 15 years of calculated friendship that was also somehow genuine friendship. It's too complicated to explain, too messy, too impossible for people to understand unless they've lived it. And Jennifer hopes they never have to. She wouldn't wish this on anyone, this particular kind of betrayal, this particular kind of loss. Because when your best friend betrays you, when your half-sister steals from you, when the two identities combine in one person who loved you and destroyed you simultaneously, you don't just lose them. You lose every memory you have with them. Every moment becomes suspect. Every laugh becomes questionable. Every tear becomes potentially calculated. Every secret shared becomes potentially weaponized. All of it gets rewritten, reframed, viewed through a lens of suspicion and doubt. You lose your past, not just your present. Your entire history together becomes a question mark. And that's almost worse than the theft, almost worse than the money, almost worse than the ruined credit, the stolen moments, the stolen trust, the stolen belief that you knew someone, that you were known by them. That's what Sarah really took. Not just $847,000. She took Jennifer's ability to believe in her own judgment, her own instincts, her own perception of reality, her own understanding of what family means, what friendship means, what love means. But Jennifer is rebuilding that too, slowly, carefully, with help, with therapy, with time, with the support of her husband Robert and her daughter Emily and the few friends she's let back in. She's learning to trust herself again. Learning that Sarah fooled everyone, her husband David, her daughter Madison, her neighbors, the other women in book club. Even Sarah's own family didn't know about the secret life, about the apartment in Roseville, about the condo in Florida, about Jennifer, about being Robert Chen's daughter, about any of it. This wasn't a failure of Jennifer's judgment. This was Sarah being extraordinarily skilled at deception, at compartmentalization, at living multiple truths simultaneously, at carrying contradictions, at being two people at once. That's not normal. That's not something most people can do. And it's not something most people need to protect themselves against. Because most people aren't Sarah Henderson. Most people don't have the capacity or the motivation or the sheer determination to maintain that level of deception for that many years. Most people, even when they lie, even when they betray, can't do it as thoroughly or as completely or as convincingly as Sarah did. So maybe Jennifer can trust again. Maybe she can let people in. Maybe she can believe that most friendships are what they appear to be. That most people are who they say they are. That the world isn't full of Sarah Hendersons waiting to destroy you. Maybe she can believe that. Eventually, with time, with healing, with distance from the trauma, but not yet. Not today. Today, she's still checking her credit report, still looking over her shoulder, still analyzing every new friendship for signs of ulterior motives, still waiting for the next betrayal. Because now she knows it's possible. It happens. It happened to her. And maybe that knowledge is the real theft, the real crime. Not the money, not the accounts, not even the ruined credit. The theft of innocence. The theft of the belief that you can know someone completely, that you can trust without reservation, that family means what you think it means, that friendship means what it should mean, that love is enough, that blood matters, that sisterhood means something. Sarah stole all of that from Jennifer, and no prison sentence can give it back. No restitution payment can restore it. No apology can fix it. No explanation can justify it. It's gone, replaced by caution, by wariness, by skepticism, by a voice in the back of Jennifer's head that asks, "Are you sure? Do you really know them? What are they hiding? Could they be lying? What do they really want?" That voice will never completely go away. Jennifer has accepted that, has learned to live with it, has learned that this is who she is now. Someone who was betrayed, someone who survived, someone who will never be quite as trusting as she once was, someone who will always wonder, always question, always protect herself just a little more than she used to. And maybe that's okay. Maybe a little wariness isn't a bad thing. Maybe blind trust was always dangerous. Maybe what happened to Jennifer was an extreme case, but the lesson applies universally. Pay attention. Ask questions. Verify. Don't give anyone complete access to your life. Don't put all your trust in one person. Don't assume that because someone loves you, they won't hurt you. Don't assume that because someone is family, they have your best interests at heart. Don't assume that because someone has been in your life for years, they're incapable of betrayal. Because Sarah loved Jennifer. The journals proved that. The 15 years proved that. The tears and the laughter and the late-night phone calls and the hospital vigils and the birthday parties and the book clubs, all of it was real. Sarah genuinely loved Jennifer, as a friend, as a sister she'd never been allowed to claim, as the person who represented everything she'd been denied. And Sarah still stole from her, still betrayed her, still destroyed her financial future while smiling to her face, still held her hand while emptying her bank account, still texted coffee cup emojis while opening credit cards in her name. Love doesn't prevent betrayal. Sometimes it enables it. Sometimes it's the cover story, the perfect disguise, the reason you don't question, don't investigate, don't protect yourself. Because you love them, because you trust them, because you can't imagine they'd ever hurt you. Until they do. Until the phone rings. Until Detective Martinez introduces herself. Until your entire reality shatters over burned coffee and a conversation about a fence. Until you learn that your best friend of 15 years is actually your half-sister. That your father kept secrets. That your family was never what you thought it was. That the person you trusted most was the person destroying you. This is Jennifer Chen's story. But it could be anyone's story. It could be your story. Right now. Today. Someone you trust could be living a double life. Could be using your information. Could be stealing your future while being your present. Could be your half-sibling and you don't even know it. Could be carrying resentments you can't imagine. Could be planning, calculating, waiting, and you wouldn't know. Jennifer didn't know. For 15 years. So what do you do with that information? How do you live in a world where this kind of betrayal is possible? Where family secrets create monsters? Where love and theft can coexist? You do what Jennifer did. You survive. You rebuild. You learn. You adjust. You become more careful without becoming paranoid. You trust with open eyes instead of closed ones. You love, but you verify. You hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. You protect yourself. You check your credit. You ask questions. You pay attention to inconsistencies. You don't explain away the things that don't make sense. And you accept that people are complicated. That they can hold contradictions. That they can love you and betray you simultaneously. That they can be friend and enemy. That they can be sister and stranger, and you decide that's not a reason to stop loving. It's not a reason to stop trusting. It's not a reason to stop connecting with people. It's just a reason to love more carefully, more wisely, with boundaries, with awareness, with the understanding that trust is earned, not given, and that even when it's earned, it can still be broken. That's the lesson. The hard, painful, expensive lesson that cost Jennifer Chen $847,000 and 15 years of her life to learn. Don't let it cost you the same. Pay attention to the people around you, to the ones you trust most. Look for the cracks, the inconsistencies, the moments that don't quite add up, the explanations that feel rehearsed, the coincidences that seem too convenient, the secrets that don't make sense. Don't dismiss them. Don't explain them away. Don't convince yourself you're being paranoid or overthinking or untrusting. Because maybe you are. Probably you are. Most people aren't Sarah Henderson. Most people don't have secret half-siblings plotting revenge for childhood injustices. Most people are exactly who they say they are. But some aren't. And the only way to protect yourself is to stay aware. Stay alert. Stay just suspicious enough to ask questions when things don't make sense. To verify when someone asks for your social security number. To check your credit regularly. To notice when someone's story doesn't quite line up. To trust your instincts when something feels off. Jennifer wishes someone had told her that. Wishes someone had warned her. But no one did. Because no one thought it was necessary. Because Jennifer was smart, capable, careful. Because Sarah was her best friend. Because things like this don't happen to people like them. Except they do. They happen all the time. To smart people. To careful people. To people who think they know better. To people who think they'd never fall for something like this. Identity theft is one of the fastest growing crimes in America. And the majority of identity thieves aren't strangers. They're not hackers in foreign countries or scammers on the phone. They're family members, friends, people with access, people you trust, people like Sarah Henderson, people who have reasons to resent you that you might not even know about, people who believe they deserve what you have. People who've been watching and planning and waiting for the perfect opportunity. So check your credit report. Monitor your accounts. Ask questions when something doesn't make sense. Protect your information, even from people you love. Especially from people you love. Because they're the ones who can hurt you most. They're the ones who have the access, the information, the opportunity. They're the ones you won't suspect, won't question, won't protect yourself against, until it's too late, until the phone rings, until your life is already destroyed. Don't be Jennifer Chen. Don't wait 15 years. Don't trust blindly. Don't assume that love equals honesty. Don't assume that family means loyalty. Don't assume that time means truth. It doesn't. Sarah's journals proved that. You can love someone deeply, genuinely, completely. You can consider them family. You can share your life with them for 15 years, and they can still betray you, still steal from you, still destroy you. The two things aren't mutually exclusive. They can coexist. They did coexist in Sarah for 15 years, and they could coexist in someone you know, someone you trust, someone you love, someone who might be your half-sibling and you don't even know it. Someone who might be carrying resentments from a childhood you never knew about. Someone who might believe they deserve what you have because of injustices you didn't create. Someone who might love you and hate you simultaneously. So stay aware. Stay careful. Stay just suspicious enough to protect yourself. Not paranoid, not closed off, not unable to trust. Just aware, just careful, just wise. Because Jennifer wasn't. And it cost her everything. Her credit, her savings, her daughter's college fund, her marriage almost, her ability to trust, her sense of reality, her understanding of her own family, her best friend, her half-sister, everything. Don't let it cost you the same. Learn from her story. Protect yourself. Trust carefully. Love wisely. And remember that the person who seems to know you best might be the person who's been destroying you all along. Let us know in the comments. Have you ever discovered someone wasn't who you thought they were? Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely? How did you rebuild? And if this story resonated with you, if it made you think about your own relationships, if it made you want to check your credit report, then subscribe so you never miss our upcoming videos. Because these stories matter. These warnings matter. These lessons, as painful as they are, could save you from experiencing what Jennifer experienced. Next, we're bringing you the story of a woman who discovered her husband had an entire second family in the same town for 20 years. 2 houses, 2 sets of children, 2 complete lives, and nobody suspected. Not his co-workers, not his friends, not even the 2 women he was married to. How did he do it? How did he maintain the deception? And what happened when it all came crashing down? Subscribe and find out. Because if Jennifer's story taught us anything, it's that the people closest to us are capable of things we never imagined. And the only protection we have is awareness, vigilance, and the willingness to see the truth, even when that truth destroys everything we believed. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay aware, and remember, trust carefully.